Labour MP for Bury North, James Frith, who joins us now. Hello.
Good afternoon, Tony.
Great to speak to you. Thanks for joining us. You've probably not had time to hear the start of the programme, but you'll know by now, I guess, that Bury's game at the weekend is off against Gillingham. The EFL announced that just around 4 o'clock. We've heard from a lot of concerned fans here. We've heard from the honorary president. We've also heard from Steve Dale, the current owner. James, before we talk about what he said and how you might respond, what's your assessment of what's happened here at Bury?
Look, I think the Gillingham game, was an inevitability that it was called off. My focus is on the deadline set by the EFL to have proof of funds and a sustainable future for Bury Football Club. That needs to come under new ownership, and the current owner needs to sell up and get going as soon as possible. I have had on good authority from Debbie Jevons herself, the chairman of the EFL, the English Football League, that the expulsion order as such, the 2-week notice that's been served, can be suspended. It can be stopped in the event credible conversations about the sale of the club are underway. And I would urge Steve Dale to get going as soon as possible with at least 2 interested parties. One that the cover was broken last night from the statement by the current staff of the club, and at least one that I'm aware of trying to engage with Steve Dale. But even as recently as this afternoon, lunchtime today, getting emails back from Steve Dale not cooperating with their very reasonable request for information, having signed non-disclosure agreements. So he needs to stop the games and crack on with a sale.
Just to put his point of view, I interviewed him earlier today, and we played it out a few moments ago. He says regarding this quite extraordinary statement put out by the club last night, I think it was the last 24, 48 hours, when they said, look, we have a buyer, we implore you to sell the club. This is from all the staff. He was disgruntled, to say the least, that they'd done that. He felt that they'd done that without consulting him. And also, he said neither he nor his lawyer have been contacted by any prospective buyer as far as that situation is concerned with the club. And again, in an extraordinary situation, James, while we've been on air, he's actually texted us here at the outside broadcast, outside Gig Lane. We've become kind of the middleman here. He says, and this is the owner, Steve Dale, and I quote him, he says, perhaps if you're on air, you can ask the MP, James Frith, why he hasn't sent to me details of his buyer.
I will gladly forward the email that this particular person sent Steve Dale at 10:23 and 55 seconds this morning, including a reply from him. I'll gladly forward him. Steve Dale and I have been in correspondence. We've had phone calls, we've had emails and phone and text messages as well. I will gladly forward those series of emails. The time for distraction and smoke and mirrors is over. There are credible conversations to be had in the market about the sale of Bury Football Club, and Steve Dale needs to engage with those and enable Bury Football Club to move on from this extremely unfortunate period of history.
Just for the sake of any fans listening, I don't want you to break any confidences, but if you say that prospective owner emailed him and got a response back, what has Steve Dale said, or what's the essence of what he said in response to that owner?
In response to that owner, he referred simply that somebody quoted in the email no longer works for Bury Football Club and has no jurisdiction. He does not answer any of the questions posed by the individual, including credible questions of around the nature of the football creditors, about how much is still owed, about the outstanding amounts for the 2 other smaller loans, providing a copy of payroll, providing a summary of player sales, confirming total cash in bank, etc., etc., etc. And this is me listing, without, as you say, breaking confidences, directly from an email of an interested party. Look, Tony, I've no skin in the game on behalf of potential investors or potential future owners. My job and my responsibility for this is to represent the interests of the football-going public of Bury, of which actually, from as far as those that refer to themselves as exiled Shakers in Devon, to the 85-year-old pensioners who spent an entire hour of a Q&A on Doomsday celebration, or referring to it rather as Doomsday celebration, when we were talking about D-Day the other week. The groundswell of support for Bury Football Club is enormous, and I think it's been underestimated by Steve Dale in this instance. He has exploited a situation that began under Stuart's day. The EFL are culpable in some of this. We need a national regulator of football. We need a new owner at Bury Football Club. And then finally, we can actually get on with a League One season and have the 3,000 plus football fans enjoying football at Gig Lane, rather than this endless to and fro between media and owner and EFL, where the football club and the fans and the football itself have been forgotten.
A to and a fro, including me in the car park now, James. So
Indeed,
look, the EFL would say he's passed the owners and directors test, and what they will say is if someone comes forward to buy the club, they'll give that person extra vetting, if you will. Just a final word, James, because we're heading to the news. If that, can you conceive that this 10-day deadline might pass and Steve Dale will not sell and Bury could go out of existence? And if so, what does that mean to the town?
It would be an absolute disaster. It would be a betrayal of 134 years of football and history of both in Bury, but also the English Football League. And I don't think, for all the toing and froing that's gone on, I don't think Steve Dale wants to be the man written in history as presiding over that. And so I continue to come back to trying to facilitate a constructive future for Bury Football Club, where the football and the football club is returned to the back pages, rather than this sort of endless to and fro between bickering parties, the EFL and the current owner of the club.
Well, look, James, I'm not sure what the rules are at the Beeb, because in the back of my mind I was thinking, I'll give you a number, you text me your owner, I'll text it to Steve Dale, but I suppose officially I can't become a middleman. But what I do suggest is, if you don't mind, is re-email him now and say, you asked Tony Livesey a question, who's the owner? Here he is. And then let's see what he says, and let's see where we go from there.
I'll have no problem whatsoever doing that. And I would just say that the EFL do need to recognise that they didn't do their job on the way in. The deal was presented to the EFL, but they did not check proof of funds some 10 months ago. So what they're now doing is catching up on lost time, and they are penalising Bury Football Club for not having done the job properly in the first place. I recognise the work that Debbie Jevons is now doing, and we are all working and hoping to work through this with the EFL now paying attention, but they have been culpable for it as much as the current owner and the immediate previous owner is as well.
James, good to talk to you. Good luck.